So, as I said in the 2022 in review video, as well as the Celeste video, I finally finished Final Fantasy IX. It's something that had been on my list for quite a while. I own it on the PS1, and I've owned it for several years and just had never played it. Actually, no, technically I booted it up like once, and then I didn't really play it. I don't remember why. I imagine that there was like some new big shiny project. I was like, oh, I really need to play this game. But I don't know why I leaned forward like that. But I started it last month, so like the tail end of 2022, and I beat it Saturday? Yeah, I beat it like Saturday afternoon. And no, Saturday evening actually. I wanted to finish it a lot earlier this week than I actually did, but alas, it's done. My general thoughts on the game are, it's eerily similar to my playthrough of Xenoblade 1. Both of these are games that were very hyped up for me. It's like, yo, these are games that are considered like some of the best in the genre. Like 9 is, a lot of people consider it, this is the best Final Fantasy game. Xenoblade is considered like, this is one of the best RPGs. It might just be the best game ever made. I don't know how many people really say that about 9 in particular, but given a lot of the praise of other Final Fantasies like 6 and 7 being considered some of the best ever made, I feel like if you're saying 9 is the best Final Fantasy, you're kind of also saying, yes, it is one of the best. And then I finally played it after several years of really wanting to. I was like, all right, we got it. And I think its world is good. Its soundtrack is like really good. Its narrative, while it has some parts I didn't care for or actually get that invested in, because there were just some parts that really did not work for me personally. For the most part, I think it's really good, really engaging. I like the main cast quite a bit. Does some crazy shit at the end. And then you have the gameplay, which I think really bogs down the entire experience. Because as good as the OST is and as great as the story is, I still have to play it. And boy, I did not like playing either of those games. But let's go ahead and start getting into the details, starting as always with the presentation. If you've seen my previous videos, you know what I like in character design. I like big-ass coats, and I like long-ass jackets. You give me a nice coat, you give me a nice jacket, design looks great. That's not really a thing here. Like, Zidane doesn't have a jacket, Kina's just has like an apron, Garnet doesn't, Vivi doesn't, but... Oh wait, sorry, I just like got a text. Vivi's design is just the Black Mage design, which is... I mean, it's the Black Mage design. It's classic. It is iconic. It is perfect. There's like, yeah, we took the Black Mage and just made him a character, and spoiler alert, we made him, I mean, like, I think that's important to say. There's going to be major spoilers for this game. Like, I know I just compared it to Xenoblade. I'm not really going to talk about Xenoblade here, so you don't have to worry about spoilers for that. I am going to spoil Final Fantasy IX. Like, it is, like, I almost said that like no shit, but like it's very important I get into the habit of saying like this is not a spoiler-free review if it is not going to be a spoiler-free review. I need to be a lot better about that, so incoming. But spoiler alert, Vivi is like the best character in the game. I don't know if he's quite my favorite. Like quick tangent. I remember reading a quote years ago about Game of Thrones, which is everyone's favorite character in Game of Thrones is Tyrion Lannister. Everyone knows that their favorite character is Tyrion Lannister. So when you tell someone else, hey, my favorite character is Jon or Dany or Arya, it's not in a sense where you're trying to be subversive. Essentially what you're saying is, we all know the best character is Tyrion, so let me talk about the other character I really like. Which is kind of goofy, but I like that. And I feel like Final Fantasy IX is very similar in that regard, where everyone knows that everyone's favorite character is Vivi. So if you say, hey, my favorite character is this person, what you're really saying is, We get it. Vivi is amazing. I love him too. He's phenomenal. He's just a precious boy that deserves every good thing. But this character also is really good. And for me, I think that other character is Garnet, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But Vivi's design is fucking perfect. Steiner does not have a nice coat. He just has a big-ass suit of armor, but his face is so funny. Like, there's, like, in a lot of the FMVs, and the FMVs look great. I really like how they look. He's so expressive, and, like, I remember the first time I saw his face, I was like, dude, because I was telling Clay, because Clay loves this game. He's the one that's like, you need to fucking play it. I'm like, dude, his face reminds me of the mayor from The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I can't unsee it. It's great. Also, every time Steiner moves, you hear just the clanking of his armor. And so Zidane calls him Rusty. I just call him Clanker. I love that sound. Anytime I got to play as Steiner specifically in the overworld, I was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna stutter step everywhere. Speaking of which, okay, so in a lot of old school RPGs, it would be, you just kind of walk and then you could hold a button to run. And then, like, I think it was specifically like, because like you would move with the D-pad or like the old analog stick. And then later, like, re-releases with newer controllers, it's like, okay, the normal analog stick is just running, but the, like, run button is still there, but now it almost makes you walk. Like, it's kind of weird. I know Tails does this too. I don't think it's in Trails. It might be that I think Tales of Berseria was where I first discovered this. It's like, there is a walk button, where I would do that shit all the time. I know it's in other Final Fantasy, because I remember doing it in 10 as well. Where it's like going around the overworld like we're running, and I'll just hold circle, because I think it's almost always circle, and it's like, no, we're just going to take our time. We're just going to walk here. Alright, now we can run again. No. Let's just relax. Take our time. If you mash the circle button, your character, because, okay, so your character is like running, or they'll walk. If you mash circle, they'll just go like, because, like, they're, like, trying to run, but they can't. And I call it stutter stepping, and I love it. I love stutter stepping in RPGs and other games. I'm trying Fatal Frame 2 with Clay. He's already played. He told me it was great. So I'm playing it, and he's kind of replaying it with me. Didn't do it as much of it this week, mostly because I wanted to finish 9, and then we started playing Celeste. But I'm hopeful that, like, throughout this week, and maybe next week if it continues, we can finish the game. Fatal Frame 2 is the greatest stutter step I have ever seen in my life. It is incredible. It is glorious. You are, like, gliding through the arena as you're doing it. And I know Clay hates it when I do it, because he's like, this is like a really atmospheric horror game, and you're ruining it. I'm like, it's still a really good atmospheric horror experience, but this is the greatest stutter step I have ever seen. I can't not stutter step my way through the village. I mean, come on. Tangent over. Stutter stepping with Steiner and hearing the clanking every time, though, is glorious. It is beautiful, and I love it. You're really passionate. Freya does kind of have, like, a nice coat. Like, Freya gets a pass. There's also a freaking scene. There's a scene where, so Freya's, like, a rat person. And there's a scene where I don't remember what her race is actually called, where she and a bunch of her, like, brethren are doing a ritual. And the ritual is literally them river dancing. And I remember telling Clay, I was like, Clay, like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. This is amazing. Why is the rat waifu river dancing? It's glorious. Like, that's just some funny shit. But yeah, I actually do like Freya's design because I like the coat. Aiko's is kind of weird. Like, I'm not crazy about the horns. She's got, like, the little wings on her back. I'm like, well, why does she have those? I don't know why, but every time I saw them, I was like, that's an odd choice. Like, I don't hate it, but I'm just like, why is it there? I said Kina. Like, Kina has the apron. Kina is just fucking weird, man. And then, then we have Amarant. I need to go. I will be right back. I'm actually gonna go get the game itself. Hold up. I need a visual aid for this. Oh, hello, giant spider on my shelf. Might have to deal with that later. Okay. So this is Final Fantasy IX. This is the cover. So this dude right here, so that's Zidane, that's MC, that's Clanker, that's Best Boy, and that's Best Girl. This dude is named Amarant. So looking at him here on the cover, I thought he was a giant chicken man. I thought this, like, the red hair on top was like the crest of the chicken. I thought this was like his little gobbler. I couldn't really see his face. And his hands, to me, kind of looked like giant claws. So I was like, is this like a giant, like, chicken claw arm thing? And so I exclusively refer to him as the Chicken Man. I did not name him that. I didn't name anyone anything different. Technically, I did for Zidane because I was going to name him something. I was like, nah, I'll just rename him. And instead of hitting the lowercase I, hit the lowercase L. So technically, he was Zladane, but it's Zidane. I don't really care. I wanted to call Amarant Chicken Boo so bad. I really did. I wanted him to be the Chicken Man. I hate his design just because of that. But I will say, actually seeing his model in-game, like, no, I can actually tell that this is a dude with either really fabulous dreadlocks or the weirdest hat I've ever seen, but look at this, he looks like a giant chicken! Okay, and then you can see him on the back, though, and it's like, okay, this looks like a dude with really weird hair or a hat, but here he's a giant chicken, man! I don't know what to say. So, yeah, oh, and then you have Kuja and his thong. Oh, Kuja looks so stupid. But it's so over the top, extra, like, yes, queen, funny. I'm like, I don't know if I genuinely hate Kuja's design, if I ironically love Kuja's design, if I almost unironically love Kuja's design. It's a mess. Why does he have a giant thong? It's weird, man. Moving on to the graphics. This is not a sprite game. It is a game that uses 3D models. But the game is so pixely. Because I was talking to Clay about it, he's like, you know, if you were playing it on like an old CRT TV, it would probably look really good. Because you're playing it on modern TV, that's probably what's kind of diluting the graphics, and maybe he's right. Maybe he's right! Oh gosh, I love that video so much. Anyways, it's a video making fun of Kingdom Hearts and how stupid it is, and I love Kingdom Hearts, and I love videos that make fun of how dumb it is, because Kingdom Hearts is stupid. Especially after 2. Like, I'm not gonna go on a Kingdom Hearts tangent. I could, I really could, I'm not going to. Just be aware. I could have, and I'm somehow showing restraint. Sorry, nose is itching. What was I saying? Graphics very pixely. A lot of the times when I'm looking at the game, I'm like, okay, this is like the characters look fine. Like, I think the models look fine. I can see them. It looks okay. There's other times where I'm looking at Missing No, where it is so pixely, they don't even have a form. And it's usually like, alright, you know, if the camera's in a position where it's really far away from them, they'll just be pixels. And I will admit, excuse me, as the game went on, it was less and less of a problem. In the early hours of the game, I remember it being a frequent problem. I was like, I can't play this. It actually hurts my eyes to look at this. It got better as it went on, but man, that was a problem at first. And like I said, like the FMVs look really, really good. The only other, there's no voice acting in the game, so the only other thing to talk about is the music. Music's great. The music's stellar. I remember kind of being like, yeah, I think the music's good. I think the music's okay. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, the battle theme is really good. And the boss theme is really good. And the title theme is really good. And a lot, like, the overworld theme is really good. And, like, a lot of these other themes are really good. And I was like, well, I just did this one dungeon, and its music was the title theme. And that was great. I really loved that. And then, like, the last part of the final dungeon, its music is like a remix of the prelude that the... I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's so good. And then there's, like, Kuja's themes, which are really good. And then his battle theme, which is just, like, we will rock you, and it's great. And then there's the final boss theme where you fight death. They're like, this is interesting. You know, it's very ambient. You know, there's, like, these ghostly wails in the back. You know, it doesn't really sound like a battle theme. And then the battle theme part kicks in. You're like, oh, this is cool. This kind of slaps. This is a good soundtrack. And then you get to the ending with Melodies of Life, which is the overworld theme. It's like, now it's the big full version. And you get the lyrics. And I'm like, oh, am I crying? I think I'm crying a little bit, and then the credits go on a little more, and I'm like, that's a cry. I'm crying now. Okay, the music's great. Oh, I knew there was a song I was forgetting. You Are Not Alone. Also a really good song. We'll talk about that scene, but the music is so good. To me, the presentation overall, I would give it a 4. I feel like I'm being a little generous. Not super generous. I guess that's kind of the thing. It's like, okay, I don't hate the designs. They're just not my favorites. But then you've got Vivi, which is like, this is a perfectly designed character. The music is like, that's where it's basically getting like all of its points. It's so fucking good. I just really hated how it looked in the early part of the game. But you know what? I think a 4 is fair because as it went on, it was a problem, but it really stopped being a problem. I am Gucci giving it that score. So let's move on to the gameplay, where, as I said in the intro part, I did not like. I think it's important to also talk about the other Final Fantasy games I've played. I have played, to completion, I've played 6, 7, and 10. And, you know, technically now also 9. I've played some of 1. I played a good chunk of 10 too, but I'd never finished it. I played like a good few hours of 13, but I never finished it. And I think that's it. And then, you know, Kingdom Hearts, but that is its own completely separate kind of battle system. What I love about 6, 7, and 10, especially 10, is the sheer number of customization and optimization you can do for all your characters. With 6, it is just more of what spells do you want them to have, but every character can learn every spell. And 7 is the same thing. It's every character can learn every spell, and then, you know, their limit breaks are what really distinguish them. And then in 6, it's like everyone will have their own individual kind of talents. 10, it's every character excels at a very particular thing. Reggie, which is what I named Titus, but like that's just what I call him now. It's like Reggie, really good at the fast enemies. Auron, really good at the tanky enemies. Lulu, if they're weak to magic. Wakka, if they fly. Riku, she can steal the parts of like a machine, which kills it. Yuna, she's a summoner, so she can just fuck up whatever she wants. And Kimari is Ronso, who was also there. But with the way the sphere grid works, if you played like the easy sphere grid, it's like, okay, everyone's locked into their role. If you don't, you're moving people everywhere. You're teaching Riku Auron shit. You're teaching Auron Lulu shit. I mean, you probably wouldn't do that. But there's so much freedom and so much customization. It was so fucking fun playing Final Fantasy X. 9 doesn't have that. The way you learn skills is not by equipping Magicite or Materia or using the sphere grid. It is through your equipment. Every piece of equipment will have a set of skills that it teaches. Anywhere from like 2 to 3. I don't think there was any of the top 4. It can be like, all right, here's like an attack. Here is a buff. Here is, you know, like something that'll give you protection from status, etc., etc. Some of these skills can be learned by anyone, like locomotion, the thing that prevents you from stop. Anyone can learn it. Like antibody, the thing that keeps you from getting poisoned. Anyone can learn it. But only Vivi can learn the black magic spells. Only Zidane can learn the thief abilities. Garnet can learn some summons, but some she can't. Aiko can learn the other summons, but can't learn Garnet's. There are some white magic spells that Garnet doesn't learn, despite being a white mage. Like, she just can't learn haste. There might have been some that Aiko didn't learn, but I don't think so. Like, only Aiko learns Holy, despite, again, Garnet being a white mage. I don't think Garnet gets Curaga. At least she didn't in my playthrough, but yeah, I don't think she could actually learn Curaga. That's just weird. Like, everyone is locked into a role. That is not inherently a bad thing. But I think just with the other Final Fantasy games I have played, and just the sheer customization I was able to do, and playing Trails games where the customization and the optimization is what I love. Yes, those characters still generally have pretty defined roles. You're not going to play Laura as a mage. You're not going to play Muse as a tank. I mean, you probably can, but why would you? They're better suited for other shit. But you can still build them kind of however you want. And you can teach them whatever spells you want. In this, you don't get that option. And I didn't like that. Because I was like, for me, it really came down to, like, the mages. And I'm like, wow. I really thought the white mage here could have learned haste. But no, only the other white mage can. That's stupid. I'm sorry. That's really dumb. You so dumb. That is really dumb. Here's my biggest problem with the game. And, like, I'll talk about some of the others. It's slow. It is so ridiculously slow. In the early game, learning skills and the progression feels so slow. Actually progressing through the game is so slow because the encounter rate feels really high. It might actually not be that high, but again, as someone who really likes Trails, where I could see the enemies in a dungeon and in the overworld, and I could essentially pick my fights. Or Tales, where it's the same shit. Or Pokemon, where if I'm in a cave, this doesn't apply, but like I can at least see I am in tall grass, so I know I kind of need to be careful where I'm walking, but if I'm walking outside of grass, I know I don't have to fight anything. Or in modern Pokemon games, where I just see the motherfuckers running about. It's like, I have a lot of freedom about when I'm in random encounters. This I don't. Is that a bad design choice? No, but it's one I don't like. And it just, there are times I'm like, dude, I took 2 steps and I got into another encounter. Why are you like this? Just why? The fights themselves are really slow. There's like a solid, 10-15 seconds of just the fight loading, which is not an inherently bad thing, but when you're just kind of going fight, and then you do another fight, and then you do another fight, it starts to get grating. I feel like some of the individual screens are designed in a way to just feel longer than they need to be to get you another encounter or two. Like, there are so many times where it's like, alright, like, I'm kind of running to the end of the screen, and then I have to take an extra couple steps, and it's like, oh no, you're gonna get into a fight now. Well, why? Like, you did this on purpose, you fucking bastards. Combat itself is really slow. Partly because it is an ATB, so you just kind of gotta wait for the bar to fill up, and then you take your turn. And then even then, sometimes it's like, alright, I inputted this turn, I inputted this command, it's still not happening. A lot of that was more kind of late game, because late game was like, wow, I am feeling a massive delay. There were times where, I hate ATBs, I just need to go and say, I hate this game's ATB. Because I really didn't feel like I had a massive problem. Okay, I had a problem with it in 6. But 6's problem was, I have so many spells that I'm scrolling through, I literally can't get through all my shit fast enough before the enemy takes its turn. So at the end of the game, I was like, I just have to put it on wait mode so I can actually find and select the shit that I want to select. because I have to go through a lot of crap to get to what I want, and it was annoying, and it kept getting me killed. 7, I did not have that problem. 10, I don't even really, because I remember 10 actually had like a trail-style turn order, so I don't really think it had an ATB. But in this game, there are so many times where, like, I'll input a command based on the present, like, vibe of what is happening in combat. And then by the time that command actually went through, I was like, well, I did it because we had Reflect up at that time, and so I was casting a flare off of my party member, because VV has a thing up where if you cast a spell off of Reflect, it does more damage. But now that his turn finally came around, it's gone! So I just killed my own party member. Thank you, game. Thank you for letting me input a command based on a certain, like, situation in combat. And by the time it actually went through, that just didn't apply. I don't like that. That's why I like actual turn-based combat. Or it's like, this is what's happening. It's my turn. I do this based on everything that's going on. That's fun to me. That makes sense. It's like, imagine playing a game of chess. Like, that's kind of what it is. That's why I like turn-based combat. That's why I like chess. Like, I grew up playing this game where it is all about strategy and manipulating the board and figuring shit out and trying to get to the win before you all die. Imagine playing chess and it's like, okay, it's my turn. I'm selecting this move. But somehow by the time your move actually gets made, other shit has already happened, and somehow they got 3 turns in before you could do your one move, and you're like, oh, well, if the board was in that situation when I inputted the command, I wouldn't have done that, because it wouldn't have made sense to do it, but fuck me, I guess. It annoyed me. It annoyed me so much, and I guess another thing that kind of annoyed me is the game wasn't that hard. Like, because I feel like that's the point of an ATB, is like, alright, you know, it's an active time battle system. You can't just sit there and think, you gotta react to shit. Shit is constantly happening. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like, dude, this is so hard. This is so intense. Like, I'm panicking. I really gotta make sure I get all my shit in a row. I'm like, no, it's not that hard. Even when I was fucking myself, like, I literally blew up party members during boss fights doing that flare reflect shit, and would still win the fight pretty handily, because it just wasn't that hard. Necron was hard because he would get like 3 to 4 turns in a row. Like, there was literally a point where he went 4 times in a row, and I couldn't do anything. Like, that's bullshit. You needed bullshit to actually kill me. Kuja, like, his super difficult form was not hard. He literally flare-starred me twice in a row, and no one was able to move, and we tanked it. Like, it wasn't that bad, and I wasn't grinding because I hated combats. I was like, oh yeah, I was super high level. I think I had, like, Zidane was like 46, I think Vivi and Garnet were 48, and then Aiko was like level 40. She was a lot lower than everyone else, like, because that was my final party. I liked the double White Mage setup, the double Summoner setup. Steiner would have been my 5th if I could. But alas, I was like, yeah, this was my party, and it worked. I don't feel like I was over-leveled, but it wasn't that hard. And I wasn't like, oh yeah, I was going out, I was doing like a lot of side quests, getting all this crazy shit. I was like, no, like, I had some good stuff. Like, I made sure to go, like, look up, where the fuck is Flare? Where the fuck is Holy? Like, I want that. But so I don't know, maybe I did break the game by doing that. Like, I made sure everyone had auto haste and not everyone had auto regen, everyone had auto haste. And given how bosses were going, even still, like, multiple times in a row, I felt like that didn't feel like I broke the game. That felt like a necessity based on what was going on. And even with auto haste, the game still felt really fucking slow. Just, I don't like save points as a mechanic. I don't know if I've talked about that in other games. I just generally don't like them. I want to be able to save at my own time so I can play the game at my own pace. If I feel like playing the game for 4 hours, cool. But I want to be able to save after those 4 hours. If I only want to play for like 20 minutes, cool. But I want to be able to save after those 20 minutes. 6 and 7 let me do that because I was, one I played on Switch, the other I played on the Pi, so I was able to use save states. And that was nice, so I could just play it at my own pace. If I played it on the original hardware, I would not be able to do that, and I probably would not like those games as much. They also had turbo features, so those games might have also been dreadfully slow, but because of how I was able to play them, I didn't have that problem. I think if I had played 9 on modern hardware with save states, so I can just save whenever I want and not have to worry about it, and had a turbo, a lot of the slowness would have been mitigated. I probably would have had a lot more fun with the game. But I did it. I played the original hardware, and I kind of think it was a mistake. But it's also probably the most fair way to judge it, because this is it originally. This is how it was meant to be played, and boy, I did not care for it. Then there's the trance mechanic. So, in like 7... I don't remember if this was in 6. I know, like, what's her name? Tara had, like, a special thing where she could, like, trance. But in 7, you know, everyone gets your limit gauge. When you get to a certain point, you have your limit break. Which, essentially, you can use when you want. And from what I remember, it does not go away at the end of a fight. It goes away when you use it. In Trails, you have your CP gauge. And when it hits 100, you can use your S-Craft. It goes away when you die because your CP hits 0, or when you use it, but you can save your S-Craft. Here, every character has a gauge where I believe it's either every time you do damage and take damage, or just every time you take damage, the meter goes up. When it fills all the way, your character will trance. It'll essentially enter like a super state. You cannot control going into it, it just happens. And it will always go, like, it will always end at the end of a fight. So, with the shitty ATB system, because I'm going to call it shitty because I fucking hated it, you can have a situation where, like, you input a command that would have killed an enemy, but then the enemy attacks one of your party members, that party member trances, then your attack that you inputted goes through, kills the enemy, and then so the trance is completely wasted. And that's not a hypothetical. That happens a lot. It's terrible. Like, I just want to be able to use this or, like, save this crazy shit for, like, a boss. And I can't because the game just doesn't let me. It's not a good mechanic. I really don't like it. Gameplay is a 2 out of 5. I did not enjoy playing the game. I really didn't. I know that's really harsh, but this game was slow as fuck. And it wasn't like it's really methodical. I have to be careful about what I'm doing. It's like, no, it's not that hard. It's just slow. And the fact that I keep running into these encounters makes it even slower. Like, Zidane has an ability that lets you run and then you lose money, which by the end of the game, I was so stupid rich, it didn't matter. So I could just run essentially for free. But you can also just, like, hold the shoulder buttons to try to run. Your characters will try to run away. That is so ungodly slow. They just won't. It takes so long to be able to just run. Why are you like this? I don't get it. It was just so unpleasant to play. But I wanted to because I felt like the story was that good and these characters were that interesting that I had to see where it went. So let's transition into that. The narrative. The general plot for the first 3/4 of the game is Queen Braun of Alexandria is essentially trying to take over the world. And there is this magical arms dealer, which is kind of one of the coolest things I've ever used to describe a character, named Kuja, who was working with her. He is supplying her with black mages that he is artificially creating. They are able to use eidolons or summons. As eidolon, eidolon, I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that. But regardless, like with summons, And they are trying to conquer the world. And your main characters don't like that. And I really... Sorry, I'm actually trying to look at my notes. Yeah, so I do have like the individual notes. Your main characters don't like that. And it's not just like, you're trying to take over the world, we're freedom fighters, which is good shit. Like, I like those kinds of stories. It's all really personal. Vivi is a black mage. So he is like an artificial creation that is somehow got kind of like sentience and like wasn't actually being used for war. But is now learning that he's like, wait, there's others like me. And they're war puppets. Well, that's not okay. Am I a war puppet? What am I? And then later as the game progresses, learns that, yeah, the black mages have shortened lifespans. They live for about, I don't remember the exact number, it was like a year or two. Like, it's not very long. And I love the way they talk about it. They don't say that they die. They're just, like, they stopped. Like, they stopped moving. They stopped working. And this is not a game that's like, oh yeah, they don't say die, they don't say killed. It's not something like that where they're like trying to work around it for like the younger audience or anything, because people fucking die in this game. It is just, this is how they understand it. They don't really have a concept of death, but they know that their friends aren't working anymore. And it seems that that starts to happen after a certain amount of time. I was like, this is a real... I love how they're addressing this. And how Vivi reacts to it. He's like, well, that's not fucking okay. But also, you know, he still wants to make the most of his own life. And later there's a part where Kuja goes to the Black Mages. He's like, hey guys, you have shortened lives. If you come with me, I'll fix that. Let's go! And he's lying through his ass. Lying through his teeth, lying out his ass. Yeah, he's lying through his ass, which he's wearing that thong. You can basically see it, so I guess it works. And the Black Mages are kind of like, do we believe him? No, we don't. Okay. Are we gonna try anyways, just in case? Yeah. Yeah, I think we will. And there's this really minor moment where Kuja's like ordering one of the Black Mages to do something. And the mage just responds with, like, I am number, whatever his number was, like 238 or something. And Kuja's like, I don't fucking care who you are. Like, go do what you gotta do. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But the mage just responding with, well, this is my number. Like, if you're gonna talk to me, call me by my name. I just love. And there's these two Black Mages that don't go with everyone else, who stayed behind in the village with a chocobo egg because they really want to see it hatch and care for the chocobo. And then the chocobo hatches and they're just so happy and they don't really understand why. But they're like, yeah, he was born and we want to take care of him and we don't know how long we're going to last, but we're going to raise him as best we can. I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. And then you see them later. And one of the two Black Mages like, yeah, his name is Bobby Corwin. And repeatedly insists in this like 30-second scene that his name is Bobby Corwin. And that's how you have to address him. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the game. I just love it. And I don't know why, but like this... The Black Mages and the Black Mage Village, like, this to me is the best part of the game. Vivi learning this shit and dealing with it, and how the other Black Mages deal with it and react to it, and, like, Bobby Corwin, and, like, this is perfect. Like, I love this. It's so good. Oh, that's another song I didn't talk about, the Black Mage Village, which is just a really heavy synthesizer. Like, this is a bop. I was not expecting this song, but it's a bop. That shit is great. And then you have Garnet, who is Braun's adopted daughter, and the Princess of Alexandria, who's like, boy, my mom's gone crazy. I think she's up to some shit, but I mean, I trust her because she's my mom, but there's this weird dude in a thong who's been hanging around, and I don't trust him. I think what I need to do is I need to escape, because mom's not, like, she's, kind of kept me under lock and key. I need to get out of here, go to Lindblom, and talk to the regent over there, Regent Sid, my uncle, about what's going on and kind of what to do. And her story, it is not the story of the princess going, I want more. It is, I want to do my job. I have a responsibility to my people. And I want to, excuse me, and I want to be able to help. It is a story not of someone trying to evade responsibility, but trying to get the experience necessary to live up to the responsibility. And it's really good to me. I love it. And yeah, her mom is fucking crazy and does some terrible things to her. And there's a point later where, yeah, Kuja betrays her and kills the queen, who he refers to as the Elephant Woman, which I think is hilarious. And it's Vivi specifically who's like, yeah, so he killed the queen, and I'm kind of with Kuja on, like, fuck Kuja, but I don't blame him for killing the queen. If anything, she got off easy with what she has done to so many people and to my brothers and sisters, the other black mages. I hate her and am glad to see her dead. But seeing my friend mourn her mother, that hurts me. I'm not sad that the queen died, but I'm sad that my friend is sad. And Garnet talking about, she's like, yeah, I don't... They're like, yeah, like your mom tried to kill you. Why are you trying to save her? Because I still love her. Because she's my mom. Because I know the person she is. And this shit going on right here, it's just not right. Like, I don't think she's being, like, completely brainwashed, but this dude has had some horrible influence on her. Like, my mom is still in there somewhere, and I don't want to lose her. And it's great, and I love it. And then you have Steiner, who is actively and aggressively unhelpful through the entire, it's a 4-disc game, with the 4th disc basically just being the 4th, like, the final dungeon. He is aggressively unhelpful in the first part of the game. Like, Steiner's kind of annoying, but I love him because I think he's really funny. But his story is, essentially, I am a loyal knight to the queen, to the country, but also to the princess. As a loyal knight, I am ashamed that I am starting to doubt my queen. Because after a while, he's like, because at first he's like, no, I can't, like, as a knight, the queen is absolute, the country is absolute princess, we must return these scoundrels, these ruffians, fuck them. And then he gets to a point where he's like, yeah, as a knight, I'm ashamed that I'm doubting her. As a man, I'm ashamed that I didn't start doing it sooner. Because this is a problem, and I have turned a blind eye for way too long. And I love that. And that's early disc 2. And then he's just gone throughout disc 2 because of plot reasons. And then he doesn't really level up unless you have to use him, which you should because he's good, but he kind of just disappears from the narrative for a while. And even when he comes back, he doesn't feel anywhere near as important as he did before. And then you have Freya, who, yeah, her people are being wiped out by Braun and Kuja, and she hasn't been home in a long time, and she wants to protect her people, and she's unable to. And so she gets this deep, like, powerful hatred for these people, for what they have done to hers. And then she finds her lover, and I'm not sure if it was, like, her boyfriend, if it was her husband exactly, I don't remember. I don't remember if they specifically said, but she finds her lover, who had, disappeared for a while. He was traveling the world, and she believed he was dead. She finds him, and she's like, yes, he's not dead, I found him. And he doesn't remember her. And it breaks her heart. Because I think she even says, she's like, yeah, like, being forgotten by him, like, that feeling is worse than the feeling of thinking he was dead. Like, this is the worst thing that could have happened. I'm glad he is alive, but... Ow. Ow. I'm like, you poor woman. You poor woman. Like, I'm so sorry, Freya. And then I was like, I can't wait to see the storyline continue. Like, if he doesn't remember her and he doesn't remember his people, like, is there a chance that he's gonna start working for Kuja? Could that happen? And, like, you have to fight him later? That's really interesting. Like, I want to see this storyline continue. How did he lose his memory? What the fuck happened? Was that Kuja? Like, did Kuja find him, go, and then he's like, cool, I'm now, like, a war puppet for you, too. Like, that's so interesting. What's gonna happen? And... oh, we're not doing anything with this storyline. It's just, once you get to the end, Freya's reunited with him, and they're in love again, although he still doesn't remember her. Okay. And around the time Steiner disappears, so does Freya, for the same reasons. Like, they stayed behind so people could escape, so they could fight some people off. I'm like, cool, wow, they really didn't do much with Steiner when he got back, but they did something. Freya, they did literally nothing with you when you came back. I'm so sorry. You were so interesting. I was so invested in your story. And then they just stopped it. You poor girl. You poor woman. Then you get Aiko, who is part of the Summoner Village. She is the last one left. She is an orphan who is desperate to find people and to not be alone anymore. But because Summoners and Eidolons, however you pronounce it, Kuja and Braun are after her, she is targeted, and the party is able to save her, and so she feels like, yeah, like, I now have people, and I can travel with them and be cool with them. And she has this Moogle companion named Mog, so, you know, shout out Final Fantasy VI, and, which is great, I love 6. And the Moogle ends up dying to save her from Kuja. I like Aiko's story. I think it's good. I don't think it's necessarily as interesting as some of the others, but I do like it. In the ending, she ends up getting adopted by Sid and his wife. I was like, cool. Did you characters, like, ever interact for more than 2 seconds? Like, this is sweet, but... okay. And, like, yeah, I'm kind of going over people's endings. Like, Steiner's ending is... he ends up marrying... I don't know if they actually get married, but, like, he ends up with Beatrix, who is another one of the big guards under Braun. Okay, she's weirdly handled. Because at first it's like, okay, like, she is the big bad enforcer working for Braun. And then it gets to a point where she's kind of starting to doubt what she's doing. She's like, wait, we're hurting the princess. This is not okay. And then Braun's like, yo, fuck you, it'll kill you too. And so you get to play as Beatrix a couple times like a guest character. I'm like, okay, she's a recurring boss, but now she's kind of on our side. She's a recurring character, but I know she's not in the main party. So she has to die, right? Like, there has to be a reason she is not a fully fledged party member. And there just isn't. She doesn't die. I mean, I guess it's like, oh yeah, she had to stay behind and help Alexandria, but I mean, that's not where the princess was. Like, when the queen was dead and Garnet was the queen, like, shouldn't you be with the queen and help, like, save the world and shit? Like, I don't know, like, I get why, but I also don't get why. It's just kind of was weirdly handled to me. I'm not talking about Vivi and Garnet in the ending yet. Like, I will get to them when I get to them. And you get Kina, who adds nothing to the plot, and even less to anyone else's storyline. But Kina's really funny. Okay, so, like, Kina's base thing of, like, I eat. I just want to devour food. I mean, it's fine. Like, it's a stick that's kind of funny, but kind of gets old. But there's so many, like, sub-scenes with Kina that I think are hysterical. Like, a dude is trying to kidnap Aiko to fuck with Amaranth after he's in the party. And he's trying to be like, hey, little girl, you look new in town, you know, can I, like, show you around, you know, maybe take you out to dinner? I'm like, this is creepy as hell. And Aiko's like, no. And then Kina just shows up behind, like, you take to dinner? You take me to food? And just scares the dude off, and it's funny. There's a scene where Kina's wandering around, like, at the same time, these are both in Treno. He's like, I so hungry. I see a reflection of food in the water. But I so high up. If I jump, I might die. But I want food! And then Kina jumps in the water, and a dude just watches and is like, poor soul. I've seen so many people jump from that for gambling debts. I pray she, like, that thing finds, like, mercy on the other side. I'm like, that's really dark and really funny. And then later, Kina washes up on shore in Lindblom. And these two dudes find them. I don't know what Kina's gender is because the game doesn't know. They'll say like he/she, so I don't know. I might call Kina a he, I might call her a she, I might call them a they, because I don't know because the game doesn't know. If there's anything official, I'll use that, but as far as I know, there isn't. But they wake up, or excuse me, so they think they're dead. These two people are like, what the fuck is that? I have no idea. Hey, dude. And so they like call a dude over and he's like, yeah, like I'm an old sea dog. I can tell what this is. Yeah, this thing's dead. And then Kina just gets up and then they all just run in terror of this zombie, whatever the fuck Kina is. And it's so good. And the funniest scene with Kina, possibly the funniest scene in the game, is they marry Vivi. Not in the ending. It's like this whole thing with the dwarves to go rally ho. And it's like, yeah, to go to this, like to go to the tree, you have to get married first. And so Zidane's like, hey, Garnet, we getting married? Yeah, sure. Really? Like, I mean, I'm happy, but I wasn't expecting this to be so easy. Yeah, like, we gotta do it to go through. Like, come on, Zidane. And then Vivi and Kina have to do it. And Vivi's just kind of sitting there looking all nervous, like adjusting his hat. He's kind of like, I know I have to do this. I don't know if I want to be here. Kina just turns. I so happy. And then turns back. And I thought it was so funny. I just love that image of Vivi super awkward. Kina staring at him. I so happy. I love it, dude. It's so good. And then there's the Chicken Man, who fights Zidane one-on-one, gets his ass kicked, and is like, oh, you must kill me now. No, I'm not gonna kill you. But you must! I'm not going to. Oh. Well, I must follow you to see why you would not kill me. And then he's just kind of the jerk loner dude, but is not interesting enough to make it work or cool enough to make it work. And then at one point, he's like, Zidane, we've reached this dungeon, but you believe in friendship, and I don't, and friends hold you back, so I'm going to race you to the end of the dungeon. Okay. And Amarant gets there first, and he's like, ha, I beat you to the end of the dungeon, but there's a seal here. And Zidane's like, cool, did you figure out how to beat the seal? No, but I got to the end first. Friendship makes you weak. Bah! And then he runs back, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you take the seal down, you beat a boss. You go meet everyone else, and they're like, cool, where's the Chicken Man? And Zidane's like, the fuck? I thought the Chicken Man was out here. I gotta go find him. And then the Chicken Man's half dead, and Zidane's like, alright, asshole, get over here. He's like, but you came back to save me, even though friendship makes you weak. Why? Because you're in my party, and it's mandatory? I mean, come on, dude. Like, you're not that interesting. Like, this scene is not that interesting. Let's just go. He's boring. I don't like the Chicken Man. Like, he's not aggressively awful. He's just dead air. I don't even remember his ending. It's just like he runs into another bounty hunter who was like his partner at one point, and you fight her, and then I'm like, this is cool. She's going to be a recurring character, right? Right? And then she just disappears. Like, why does this game keep doing that? You've got, like, the Freya Fratley thing, which is great, and then you do nothing with it, and then Amarant and Lena, I think was her name, are like, this was potentially something cool for him, and then she's just gone, and then, why is Beatrix not a party member, even though she's in the party a couple times, and she's on our side, and she's still alive, and the princess who she's supposed to protect is now a party member? Like, what the fuck? Why does this shit not work? But then the individual stories of the main characters trying to find out, like, their place in the world and their personal stakes, with Braun trying to take over the world and Kuja doing all this shit, is so good and so compelling. And then you get to the Black Mage Village, you're like, this is incredible, and his name is Bobby Corwin, and it's all great. And then you get to the last quarter of the game, and you go to Terra, and then there's another world, and you find out that it's like, okay, that other world was dying, and they're trying to take over this one, and that's what Kuja is. He's one of these people, like, they're essentially Saiyans, they even have the fucking monkey tails. Our world is dying, so you need to go conquer this one, and essentially clear the people out. And that's Kuja's role, and, like, they're artificial people, essentially, and Zidane is one of them. He's essentially Kuja's brother, and he was supposed to fulfill the role after Kuja, and Kuja essentially was really mad that Daddy had another kid, and so instead of showing Zidane the ropes and teaching him everything, he just kind of dumped him on Guy and was like, cool, which is the main plan. He's like, cool, I'll kill you later, ass, and that's basically it. So Zidane learns this. Okay, so first, actually, so you go to the village in Terra, it's like Bran Ball, I think, with all the other, like, Zidane clones. Which, not actually, but kind of, like, all the other artificial people that look a lot like him. And he's like, this is weird. And they're like, yeah, you're home now. This is where you're from. Oh, okay, this is fucking weird. Then they go take him to meet the boss. And he goes by himself. And his guide is like, hey, aren't you gonna, like, tell your friends or, like, say goodbye because you're home now or anything? He's like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but to me it felt like he was saying, yeah, but it's none of their business. And it bothered me immensely. Like, I am generally not a fan of the trope of a main character going, hey, guys, I'm about to get some, like... I need to do this by myself, okay? Like, I'm sorry, like, I know we're a crew, I know we've been through a lot of shit, I know that whenever you guys are going through shit, I'm always there and helping, but I'm sorry, I have to go do this. Sometimes it can work. Like, there's a part literally at the end of the game where he does that, and I think it worked. Here, it just didn't resonate with me. I'm like, you can at least tell them, like, where you're going, and like, hey guys, this is just a really personal thing. I kind of want to handle this by myself. Like, I think that's what it is. Because at the end of the game, he talks to them. In this, he blows them off. And there's literally points where you can, like, run into them. And they're like I think it's Kina, Aiko, and Vivi, specifically. They're like, hey, Zidane, what's up? And he's basically just kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna go do this. Don't follow me. I'm like, this feels out of character. And I get it. Like, this is a new, big, crazy thing for him, but... this doesn't feel right. This feels like he's being intentionally written out of character, and I don't like it. And again, like, I get it, like, he's going, like, this is some interesting shit for him, but even Zidane would be kind of like, yeah, there's this cutie over here, she's gonna show me some shit, like, don't tell Garnet. But, like, I kind of need to go do this, but this is where I'm at, blah, 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 blah. Like, he's just kind of like, don't talk to me, go away. I'm like, this does not feel like Zidane. This is weird, and I don't like it. So he goes off by himself, talks to Garland, shout out Final Fantasy 1, because this was the creator's last game. For all intents and purposes, this was the final fantasy. And then, they kept making more. With various results. It's actually really interesting. You're like, alright, 10 was next, and... people either really love 10 or really don't like 10. I'm pretty mixed on it. I think the gameplay is amazing. The stories, I like it more than I dislike it. 11 is the MMO. 12, I think is supposed to be good and is very different. 13 is its own trilogy, but apparently no one really likes it. 14 is terrible, or excuse me, was terrible, and then they completely revamped it and it became the best MMO ever. And then 15 was an unfinished shit show. Final Fantasy without the creator, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very interesting, it's a mixed bag. Anyways, so a small party goes to follow Zidane. He talks to Garland, who's like, alright, so this is the thing, worlds, ours was dying, this one's alive, we're going to conquer it so we can essentially repopulate it with our own people and we can have our own planet. You were supposed to do that, and now that you're back, you're going to start doing that again. You're going to join us, you're going to be our angel of death. And he's like, no, that's fucking stupid. This is where I grew up. These are my people. You are right, though. I am going to be an angel of death, but an angel of death for you. And I'm like, that's great. That's my Zidane. I love this. And then Garland goes, and snaps his fingers. And if I'm understanding correctly, because it's kind of, it was not very clear to me exactly what was happening. Because, like, okay, so it seems pretty clear that he's trying to, like, take Zidane's soul out of him. And, like, cool, this is a good vessel, but I don't like the soul that's in there. And he's trying to, like, delete it. But it doesn't work. And Zidane then kind of starts wandering around, and he's having memories of his friends. And he'll start running into them. And to me, it's like, it seems very clear that he recognizes who they are and what they mean to him. But he's treating them like shit. I guess because he just realized he's an enemy of the planet. But he just said, like 10 seconds ago, I'm not their enemy, I'm your enemy. So is he being brainwashed? Because no, he still knows who they are and he's not actively attacking them. Is it his soul is being rewritten? Maybe, but I don't think so. Like, what it looks like to me is he said, fuck you, the guy said, no, fuck you, and then literally caused him a lot of internal pain. Then his friends start showing up and are like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Are you okay? And he's just brushing them away and being really fucking rude. And I get it. It's like, yo, he just, no, I don't. I don't get it. I fucking hate this scene. I'm not supposed to. This is supposed to be the best moment of the game. The You Are Not Alone scene. Where all of his friends, like, 2 by 2, like they're on Noah's fucking Ark, are, I guess for the most part, are backing him up. And, like, he's just kind of wandering around fighting a monster, and his friends show up like, we have your back. You're our boy. You have been here for me when I've gone through this shit. You've been here for me when I've gone through this shit. You are going through shit now. It is our turn to be here for you. And that is great and magnificent, and I love it. I don't like the way he is written in this scene. Because if he is in 1 second saying, fuck you, these are my people, and then the next going, Vivi, shut up, you little brat, it doesn't work. And I understand that some shit just happened when Garland snapped his fingers, but I don't know what happened. Because his memories aren't being rewritten. It's not like, I am now the Gaia killer, so that's why he's doing this. That would make sense to me. But he seems to still recognize who these people are and what they mean to him, but he's still treating them like shit. And that is not acceptable. You do not get to talk to Vivi like that, you son of a bitch. I don't care what you just went through. You don't get to do that. And I think part of it, like I've said in a few recent videos, I did not have a very good day the other day. I was very miserable. I was very down on myself. Just like, I feel awful. I feel low. I just feel inadequate, stupid, and worthless. One of those days. And I remember thinking, I don't want to talk to someone about this. I kind of want to be left alone. But at the same time, if someone reaches out to me about this, because, like, I've got my roommates here, if one of them is like, hey man, like, do you want to talk? I'm going to tell them no, because I don't want to, but I'm also going to tell them, how much I appreciate them being here in the moment and reaching out to me to make me feel better. And that I don't want to talk about it, but I still just want them to be here and like be present with me. And we do other shit because that's what I need to feel better right now. And if that's kind of what was going on, if he's like, I don't want to talk, I kind of need to be alone for a bit. And then he's alone for a bit. And then he comes and he's like, guys, thank you for being here for me. I appreciated it. I needed it. Now I'm ready to talk about the crazy shit that happened. It would have really worked for me. But the way he's just blowing them off, and just the way he says things to them, I'm like, no. I like their reactions to you, but your reactions to them feel wrong. This does not feel like Zidane. And if he was actually being brainwashed because of what Garland did, I would buy it. But that's not what seems to actually be happening. If his soul literally got ripped out and he did not recognize them, but through these like mini fights, it's kind of all coming back, that would make a lot of sense and it would be great. Maybe that's what it's going for, but that's not what it felt like. It felt like, I know who you are and what you mean to me. Fuck you. No. Fuck you. That's not okay. And it bothered me. It really, really did. And the whole Terra storyline with like, yeah, we're trying to conquer the world and, you know, we gotta clear it out first. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't care. I'm not gonna say it's bad because I don't think it is, but like, I've been enjoying these smaller stories and how this crazy war is happening, but this is how it's affecting these individuals and their place in it. That's not really happening here. We get it a little bit with Zidane, because now we're getting his shit, but I don't like how you handled it. And yeah, I would have much rather handled Freya's thing with Fratley. I really wanted to see how that was going. If Aiko's gonna get adopted by Sid, I'd rather her have like another scene or two with him. That would have been really sweet. I didn't like the best scene in the game. That's kind of a problem. I don't hate Kuja. He just didn't do it for me. Like, okay, I take that back, because I really like Kuja by the end. Like, I like the stuff they're doing with him. Like, when he's like, I'm a total piece of shit. Fuck you, Garland. I am the greatest individual. I'm gonna live forever. And Garland's like, no, you won't. You have a very limited time limit. Your time's about to run out, dude. You're gonna die. You're joking. You're joking. I can't believe my ears. Would someone shut this fella up? I'm drowning in my tears. Oh God, I'm actually crying because I'm about to die. He's not kidding, is he? Isn't that funny? I literally achieved everything I wanted, and it's not going to last, so it doesn't matter. Well, if I'm going to die, I am taking everyone else with me. And then he casts Ultima, which in this game is like the human extinction attack. He like blows up Terra, but you're able to escape it. And then he does it again on Gaia, which is what leads to you dying and fighting death. Okay. And then you fight death and you come back and no one really talks about it because boy, Necron really comes out of nowhere and adds... I like the theme of fighting death and like existentialism given a lot of the themes and character arcs in the game. It works, but just from the perspective of... It's kind of weird and out of nowhere, but I don't hate it. And then Zidane does kind of tell everyone, he's like, okay, Kuja's still down there and he's my brother. I need to talk to him. I got to go do this by myself, though, because I don't want to put anyone else in danger. And the fact that he's talking to them makes it work for me. That's really what it is. And he's not being rude and saying, like, no, fuck you. You guys wouldn't understand. He's like, guys, I need to handle this, okay? You got, like, please. I'm like, all right, that's fine. And they talk, and it's a very short scene. And I remember really liking it, though. And I love the part where Kuja's like, why the fuck did you come back? Oh, you do the same for me. Okay, don't comment on that. Like, yeah, we both know that's bullshit, but I feel like I have to, you know? And, like, they talk for a bit, and then Kuja dies. And it's surprisingly effective. And I felt like, yeah, I just didn't really care for Kuja. But by the end of the game, I was like, you know what? It's kind of the opposite of Zidane, where, like, I really like Zidane for most of the game, and then in his one, like, really big scene, I did not like how he was written. And then for Kuja, I'm like, yeah, this guy's okay. And then in his big scenes, though, I'm like, no, these are actually pretty interesting and good. I feel like I like him by the end. Definitely not as much as Kefka, definitely not as much as Genova, but I got a lot more than Seymour. Let me see if I have any other notes here. Blah, 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 blah. Zidane. Kuja doing stuff. The Saiyans. Talking about the You Are Not Alone scene. Kuja. The ending. Okay, so that really is just the ending. So the ending is... it's kind of a bookend, because the game starts with, like, this big play. Now there's another big play. Zidane reveals that he is still alive, and, like, goes back to his girl. And it's very sweet, and I loved it. And, like, as the theme starts playing, there's this moment where Garnet is holding him, and she's so happy, and then she starts, like, banging on his chest, and I'm like, you fucking idiot, like, why did you even let me believe you were dead? Why didn't you come back sooner? And I was like, I feel it. I feel the emotion. I feel the sweat around my eye. It's a technical cry. It's like, I feel the emotion, I feel the wet. It's there, but it's not like I'm crying. But you know what, game? You know what? I will give you the credit for it. You technically did make me cry. And that sounds like so sociopathic. Be like, well, technically it was there. But because there's times where, like, I cried, and there's times where, like, I'm emotional and I can kind of feel it. So I guess this technically counts. But then when we get to the credits, and we start seeing, like, those old CGs, and we get, it's specifically the one of Garnet wearing the white mage outfit, like, sliding on the, like, on the rope with Zidane. That's when I full-on cried. Like, that was the moment that got me. I was like, okay, game, you really made me cry. Good job. The other big thing in the ending, aside from the other character endings I've mentioned, is Vivi. Where it's revealed that he has had children, which I don't think Vivi got busy, as they say in The Incredibles. I think it's more just like he was able to make more of himself, like doing the Black Mage process, which I thought it was that he didn't like the process of just them creating him, but I guess it is more just, he does not mind making more Black Mages, just the war puppet thing, which I think is fair. And it's essentially him, like, writing a letter, giving his final goodbyes. And it is implied that he has now died, or he is right about to, but his death happens off screen. And I didn't like that. And I think it's because I essentially went through the game expecting Vivi to die. I went into the game because I didn't know how the game ended. Sincerely had no idea. I was like, I know he is the most popular character in Final Fantasy. People who have played 9 all say, Vivi is the best thing to come out of any game. He is amazing and we love him. And Clay had told me the ending made me cry. I was like, I think it's Vivi. I think he dies. Then I get to the point where I find out that, oh yeah, Black Mages have shorter lifespans. I'm like, oh, he is going to die. Oh, I'm not ready for that. The scene where he dies and he says, like, goodbye to Zidane, that's going to break me. Like, just even, like, thinking about it, talking about it, I'm like, oh, I am ready for the waterworks. Like, game, you've got me. I am putty in your hands here. Destroy me. But he doesn't get a goodbye with Zidane. He does not get an on-screen goodbye with anyone. And I just felt cheated. Like, game, you had this perfect opportunity, and I felt like you just didn't capitalize on it. Now, I have talked to Clay about this. Like, he likes the game a lot more than I do. Although he agrees the trance mechanic is ass, and we both agree that Amaranth the Chicken Man kind of sucks. He likes the You Are Not Alone scene a lot more than me. Like, he's like, this is how I interpret it, and this is why it works. And he has some, which I don't really remember, but I remember what he said about Vivi specifically. And it was, I think this is a perfect way to say goodbye to Vivi because of who he is. Vivi does not feel to me like the character who would want this big, sorrowful goodbye. He wouldn't want to make it a big thing. He would be the kind of person to just, like, you know, like, don't worry about it. You guys do what you gotta do, but I'm still gonna say my piece. Like, I'm just gonna write a nice letter. I'm like, I mean, I can see that Vivi wouldn't want to, like, he would not want his friends to be sad, especially when you think of, like, the Garnet crying over her mom thing. But I still felt cheated out of seeing him say goodbye to his friends. I wanted that. Even if it is not his dying moments. Even if it is just like, yeah, there's just a part during the epilogue where he and Zidane are talking. And it becomes very, very clear that this is the last time. I'm feeling it. Like, I'm getting so emotional talking about it. Like, it's clear this is the last time they're going to talk. Because Vivi, whether he tells Zidane or not, it's clear his time is up. And the stuff he writes in the letter about, like, Zidane, I always talked about you. Like, I wanted people to know how much I cared about you. And all, like, the good things you had done. And how you changed my life. And you made it better. And you made me a better person. I wanted to see them talk about that. Because that, to me, that is the kind of moment that would have made this game amazing. And I felt like it was there. And they didn't take it. Like, Aerith dying in 7. I know I was talking earlier about, like, you know, I don't want to spoil stuff, but it's probably the most famous scene in any video game, aside from, I don't know, the princess not being in the castle in Super Mario Brothers. Sorry if you didn't know Aerith died in Final Fantasy VII. Don't know if she'll die in the remake, because with Nomura, you never fucking know, but regardless. It's shit like that. Just elevates the game. Not just because a character died, but because it's not just the fact that Aerith dies, it's also how it impacts the game. Whoever is in your party is going to mourn her. And they have very different reactions. And they're all so good. It's so poignant. And how it's not just that they kill a character. It's that the game does not replace her in any way. The player and the characters feel her loss as the game continues. And it's what really lets it sink in. And for me, Vivi and Zidane having one last conversation, whether it's like Vivi's deathbed or he even tells, like, I could easily see it being them just talking, hanging out in, like, the village or something, like, maybe even by the graveyard, and then, like, Zidane kind of runs off, and then Vivi's by himself, and kind of just makes that comment, just to himself, about how, like, yeah, this is probably going to be the last time, or maybe Zidane, like, oh god, like, is telling him about his plan. He's like, yeah, we're gonna perform a party at the castle, and Garnet's gonna be there, and, like, I'm gonna reveal to her that I'm still here, and that I'm after her. You've gotta be there. Here's your ticket. I can't wait to see you. I love you, buddy. And they kind of talk for a bit, and then Zidane runs off, And then Vivi kind of just thinks to himself, I'm not going to be there. Like, I'm not going to make it. But doesn't tell anyone. And, like, I feel like you would still have the Vivi not making it about himself and not trying to have this super sad thing. But, like, gosh, that, like, just talking about that and imagining it, like, I'm starting to almost cry. And the game just, to me, did not deliver there. Did it still make me cry? Yes. I like the ending. Like, I like the character endings. But I felt cheated there. I did not like the end game of Final Fantasy IX, which to me is how it really distinguishes itself from Xenoblade Chronicles. 2 games that were hyped up as absolute masterpieces. 2 games I did not like playing. I don't know if I'm going to do a review of Xenoblade Chronicles anytime soon, but I fucking hate the gameplay. The story starts off great, and then in the middle, there's this kind of dip where I'm like, I don't like the decisions that these people are making. Boy, this is, And then it kind of goes back on an upswing, and it gets really good at the end. And I'm like, oh my god, I am so glad I decided to finally finish this, because I stopped. I had dropped it in the middle. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then before 3, I was like, I gotta do it. And I'm like, I'm so glad I did, because it's phenomenal at the end. And then this game's weakest points are at the end. And there's still good shit there, but I'm like, man. There's that point in 7 where you learn about Cloud and who he is. And I won't go into that detail, but fuck, it's so interesting. And the game gives time for it to really sink in and, like, develop. But the thing with Zidane is, like, hey, Zidane, you're basically Goku. You were dropped here to do this job, but you didn't do the job. That's bad. And him saying, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Oh, well, I guess you're a failure then. And then Zidane super angsting, being rude to his friends. And then his friends help him out. And it's like, I don't know, 10 minutes total. It feels like it came and went so quickly. It did not have the impact it was supposed to on me. I know it worked for a lot of people. It is apparently the best scene in the game. But for me, and like, this feels like it should have happened earlier in the story. I don't know where, I won't lie. But it happened so quickly, so close to the end of the game, it just had no time for me to sink in. I was gonna give the narrative a 4, but it's a 3.5. There are too many things that bother me. There's too many things that are, like, amazing, like individual scenes and characters to me to really give it a low score, but man, so that's what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.5. So Final Fantasy IX gets a 9.5 out of 15, which feels pretty indicative of my feelings for it. It's still positive. I like it more than I dislike it. Certainly. But overall, to me, it is a mixed bag. I have problems with the direction of the story by the end. That as much as I love the story and I love these characters, I can't ignore the things I don't like. But boy, I hated playing it. I really did. I would love to see this get adapted into, like, a show. I think it would be great. And I feel like maybe some of those other things, like the Fratly sideline that is ignored, I could really get into that. And, like, seeing Freya and Steiner after they disappear, like, no, like, you could still show them in a show and be like, this is really what they're up to right now, and kind of continue that. I think would really work for me. And I feel like there is a way to make, like, because I'm not going to say, like, the You're Not Alone scene is just awful and doesn't work. It's so close to it for me. It just doesn't stick the landing. Or it's almost more, it's not that it doesn't stick the landing, it doesn't stick the setup. For me, but I feel like it could be very well done, and I just, I want to love this game, and I almost do. But by the end of Xenoblade Chronicles, I felt like I experienced a masterpiece. I just hated playing it. It was so close to being a masterpiece. Instead, it's just pretty dang good, maybe even almost great. I think that's all I really have to say about this one. If you have played it, I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. These parts that did not work for me, maybe they worked for you. I know they did for Clay. I sincerely hope they did. But for me, yeah.